I'd like to call the May 10th, 2018 Peters Township Planning Commission meeting to order. Roll call it.
Mr. Verlato will not be here tonight. Mr. Cardilis?
Here.
Mr. Magrino?
Here.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Wiley?
Here.
Mr. Salepis will not be here.
Can we get a motion for the approval of the April 12th, 2018 regular meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
NA site plan subdivisions filed for review.
I'm going to conditionally file. We have the St. Petersburg Center site plan in, but I haven't had a chance to check and see if it was complete, so I'm going to announce that it's here, but if it's not complete, I will notify the developer.
Correct. Any change to the agenda?
No.
Any audience comments on items not on the agenda? Moving on to new business, Planning Commission recommendation, final plan, Juniper Woods, Manor Way, Thompsonville Road.
This is a Planning Commission recommendation to council. The Juniper Woods final plan does have to go into council for final approval. So the Planning Commission tonight is being asked to make a recommendation to council on the final plan. Briarwood LLC is the developer of this proposed project. They have an executed agreement of sale to purchase the 30.4 acres from 271 Heartland LLC, who is the current owner. This property is zoned low-density residential. It is included in the CR Conservation Residential Overlay District. Planning Commission approved the preliminary plan on August 10, 2017, and Council approved the preliminary plan on August 9, 2017. That preliminary plan approval was for the Juniper Woods development to use the option A in the overlay, which is 2 lots per acre max, and 25% of the gross site needs to be set aside as open space. Bill Moldvin is here tonight representing Briarwood LLC. He's the CEC. They're the civil engineers designing this project. I'm just going to touch on some key points and we'll walk the Planning Commission through the final plan as well as the audience. The site layout in terms of roadway connections, there's a proposed roadway connection to Thompsonville Road, and when council approved the preliminary plan, they required that the development connect and make do a connection to the Manor Way over at Beacon Manor. The township is currently working with, there's 4 property owners on that section of Manor Way. The township owns a 40-foot wide right-of-way, and the current road that exists there is partially in that right-of-way and partially out of that right-of-way. We are working with the property owners, 3 property owners specifically, to potentially design the road partially in the right-of-way that we own and partially outside the right-of-way, and we're working with those property owners to see if we can accomplish that. If we can, we think that that'll be a more environmentally sensitive way to make that connection. It'll have less impact on the environment in that area. And in the staff recommendation to the Planning Commission is that prior to this final plan going to council and being on the council agenda for approval, that we work those details out with those property owners before we go to council. So with that, I will turn it over to Bill Moldvin, and he'll walk the audience as well as the Planning Commission through the layout of the proposed Juniper Woods plan. I will say one other thing is the final plan that is being presented tonight complies with the approved preliminary plan.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, commissioners, for having me here tonight. Once again, my name is Bill Moldvin. I represent Woody Welsh, Rodwood LLC, in the land development approval process for Juniper Woods residential subdivision. I'm just getting back to the beginning here. Quickly, I wanted to just refamiliarize everybody with the location of the site. This shows that the site is on the northern end of Peters Township at the Township and county line, Upper St. Clair, Allegheny County, Washington County, right here. The zoning map, as Ed mentioned, the site is in the low-density conservation residential overlay district, and this is the parcel of land right here, 30.4 acres. Existing conditions. This is north to Orientia. South is here on the southern end of the property, Thompsonville Road. Northern end of the property is the Beacon Manor plan. Existing conditions, primarily wooded. There's an existing gas easement located or bisecting the property from east to west, and then the southern portion is woods and open space lawn. We did do a wetland and stream delineation, which found multiple wetlands on the site, 7 streams. We've designed the plan to have one impact to a de minimis wetland, which is below 0.05 acres. That's going to be impacted with one of our road crossings, and we're currently in the permit process with DEP to have those stream crossings and the wetland impact permitted. And topography, the high side of the site is on the eastern portion, and it flows or heads down towards the western side. So you can see we've got a pretty significant elevation change from east to west. Zoning information, I think we've covered that. Property is 30.4 acres, as I said. We're proposing a yield of 60 units. Option A in the Conservation Residential Overlay District requirement states that we have to have 25% of our gross site set aside as permanent open space. We're providing 11.08 acres gross area, and I put in parentheses the previous plan, the preliminary plan. When we came in, we were at 10.95 acres of gross open space. We've increased that by about 1/10 of an acre, and our net acreage of open space is 9.35. We were at 9.02 in the preliminary plan, so we're up almost 1/3 of an acre, and that net area is calculated from the gross minus any of the areas encumbered by easements. Site design requirements, we've chosen to use the narrow right-of-way configuration in the zoning ordinance, which measures 40 foot from back of sidewalk to back of sidewalk. We're looking at sidewalks 5-foot width, both sides of the road, except for the locations where we are crossing streams to limit the impact to those streams, basically minimize the length of pipe culvert for those streams in conjunction with that crossing. Front yard setbacks are 20 feet, side yard setbacks 7.5-foot minimum, and corner lots are at 15 feet. Rear yard setback is 20 feet. Maximum lot coverage is 30%, and our minimum lot width is 50 foot. As designed, we have a minimum lot width of 58 feet to accommodate the smaller of the two housing types planned for the development. Overall site plan, as Ed mentioned, Thompsonville Road on the south, a connection to Manor Way on the north. We've got a loop layout kind of a closed loop layout, so there's no cul-de-sacs. It's kind of free-flowing. There's 2 stop conditions, one here and one here. The stream crossings that I referred to, which are 4, one of the stream crossings is located on the eastern side of the site, the high side. The second stream crossing is where the stream kind of comes down towards the western portion of the site, and it's at this location. There's also an existing stream along Thompsonville Road, and that is going to be a culvert replacement, so we'll have a stream crossing here, and then the final stream crossing will be at this location at the connection to Manor Way. There are 2 stormwater facilities, both surface ponds located at the low side of the site, which is the western side of the site. One stormwater facility is located here and the other here. Total roadway length, 3,400 feet, approximately 0.64 miles. The rendering gives you a better idea of the open space throughout the site. It's scattered throughout the site. Hopefully, it's available, and we tried to make the open space, not in just one portion of the site, but you can see that we're proposing to minimize the impact to the existing slopes between the high side of the development and the low side of the development. We also have areas of open space where streams and wetlands are present, and we're also counting the stormwater ponds in that gross open space calculation, along with the gas easement that's coming through. There's 8 open space parcels on the recorded plan that's been submitted to the township. I spoke about the open space measurements, the 2 surface ponds. Mentioned that the easements come out of that open space gross area to give the net. Traffic calming, we have 4 raised crosswalks. Those raised crosswalks are here, and then on the low side here, and then on the opposite side of the gas easement. And those crosswalks are located in those specific spaces based on the fact that we do not have a sidewalk on one side of the road at those stream crossings. So we're using those crosswalks to get pedestrians from one side of the street across the crossing and then back to the other side of the street. We're also using low-speed curves and intersection stop conditions as part of our traffic calming plan. The homes that we're proposing to build, the home builder is Heartland Homes. These are some of the building elevations. They range between 3,200 and 4,200 square feet, and the sales price will be the estimated sale price will be between $350,000 and $500,000. These are 6 of the building elevations. I think in Ed's recommendation to Planning Commission and his description, there'll be a craftsman style material, stone, cement, siding, brick, and for the building exteriors. And we've got one more slide that shows the larger units. I say 2 size units. We have an approximately 40-foot width unit, and then an approximately 52-foot wide unit. With that, I'll open it up to any questions, and at that point I'll go back to the rendering to answer any of those questions.
Bill, I have a question on your. You were talking about. Go back to the traffic calming devices again. You said there were 4 raised sidewalk crossings. Yeah,
we have a raised sidewalk, a raised crosswalk in this location.
Yeah, were those on the preliminary plans as well?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
They were.
So Where are those again?
One is here, and they're located so that the pedestrian can get across because we do not have a sidewalk on the high side of the stream crossings in this location or this location. So we've got one here at the gas line easement, and then we've got two additional at the high side of the development, one here and then one here.
And you said something about your curbs were designed for a specific purpose?
Yeah, in the Saldo, there's designation radius wise, the radius size for the curves.
Is that to slow traffic down?
Yeah, it's low speed
How's that work?
curves. It reduces that radius size so that you can't take that curve at the speed that you would a wider radius.
And you said all your lots are designed, every one of them designed at 58-foot width because of the style of the houses?
We have our small lots are 58-foot width, and
The
then
minimum for the township was 50, right?
50, yes.
How many lots are there that are 58? More than that?
It's about 50-50.
What's the intended, I'm sorry, last question. What's the intended speed limit through here? Is it 25 all the way through? Okay. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Going off the thing about the radius of the curves, is it still going to be possible to get a semi through there for a moving truck?
Oh, yes, and the Saldo has been developed so that those are taken into account.
School buses will be able to travel to access the whole
Yes.
Whole neighborhood?
Yes. We do have, I should mention,
I mean, not that
We-
the neighborhood's going to be designed for that, but
we could coordinate it with the school district, and we do have a spot where, at this location, where they've requested that we have a wider sidewalk for bus pickup. And then there's also an open space parcel in this location that we've designed with a pull-off for the cluster box that is being required by the post office.
With relation to the sidewalks, you mentioned that you're not proposing sidewalks on both sides where you cross the stream. Seems like there's significant, especially adjacent to Thompsonville and also between lots 3 and 5, I guess, that you're also not providing sidewalk.
Pull out the plans here.
That are crossing. And I guess, are we okay with not providing sidewalk on both sides? I'm happy to see it's at least on one side.
Well, there's some flexibility.
Yeah.
But the majority of the plan should have sidewalks on both sides.
Right.
I think coming out to Thompsonville, was it one side?
Yeah, it's one side.
Yes, it is, and we.
It's on the sidewalks on the side of the school district, one of the buses.
so it connects to Thomasville, the sidewalk?
Yes, it does. It extends to Thompsonville Road.
It connects to the north side, the east side of Thompson.
Yes, it does, to the east side.
Is
And
there a crosswalk from east to west? I'm not familiar if there's a sidewalk on Thompsonville.
There's no sidewalk for Thompson.
And what's the reason why there's no sidewalk in those areas?
due to the natural resources that are there, we've got streams and wetlands. We are serpentining this road through wetlands and streams that are existing in this location. And it was just a request at the very onset of the project from CEC to the township to allow us to provide on one side of the road. And we did get positive feedback that we'd be able to do that.
But the majority of that neighborhood has sidewalks on both sides.
So it's at the crossings where you have sidewalks, and then also where you're abutting wetlands, you have sidewalks.
Yes, and at those stream crossings.
Approximately how many feet between the sidewalk and the front of the house?
20 feet. So we'll have enough room to park a vehicle between that sidewalk and the face of the house.
In addition, the sidewalks are not proposed on the connection.
No, there are no sidewalks proposed on the connection.
If there's sidewalks in that neighborhood currently,
There are not.
there are none. Plus, you're working in a tight space there.
Yeah. That was kind of another question, is trying to establish that width. I know the right-of-way that'll kind of be worked out with council, as far as how wide the right-of-way for that connection will be. That includes the retaining wall, as well as any grading kind of along Manor Way. There's a 40-foot right-of-way somewhere in there right now. In addition to the construction details, have all the permitting for that been included within what you're currently proposing?
Yes, we are. We've submitted to DEP and the Conservation District for the permitting of those, that connection.
It just seems very narrow, and it seems like you're staying out of that stream, obviously intentionally. And I don't know if that can be adequately constructed. It just seems very tight where we're trying to run along the side of that stream with that retaining wall without impacting the stream. Is that a delineated stream, obviously? So what's the bed and banks on that?
We actually had initially assumed the 50-foot assumed floodway on either side of the stream, and found that we were to go to DEP with those impacts was going to look unfavorable, and we were able to do a preliminary hydraulic and hydrologic analysis on the streams to determine the actual floodway or the floodplain for those streams, and it varies from location to location. I think we had maybe 26 cross sections that we did throughout the site, but at that location, where the stream comes into the property from Beacon Manor, our flood plain was less than 10 feet, so less than 5 feet on either side of the stream bed. And we did work with the township to develop multiple concepts that either graded on both sides of the road, had a retaining wall on both sides of the road, and considering DEP's permit requirements, the most appropriate way was to go ahead and grade on one side and then install the retaining wall on the other.
I guess my concern is it feels very narrow. If this has been reviewed by staff, then the township will find it just feels very narrow, and I'm concerned when we actually build it, what the impacts of that street will be. And if there's something that tip us into a DEP permit, that's obviously, as you know, a very significant permit.
Yeah, and we've actually met with DEP prior to submitting the permit, and had a pre-application meeting to discuss the project as a whole, and it's specifically the Manor Way connection, and got their feedback and what they were looking to see to stay outside of that DEP permit process.
Just see that note, road connection to Manor Way to be coordinated with the township. Makes me nervous. We're going to be on the hook for something.
Makes you nervous, why?
Just for permitting and constructability of that retaining wall. Just want to make sure we fully vetted that roadway, and that's what we need. And so it's going to be constructed and we get the permits for it.
We're in that process now.
Okay.
Key moving forward will be working with the property owners.
And the total lots, is that the number of buildable lots? I know he's mentioned a couple times that there's open space lots. I mean, how many lots for the plan are going to be constructed? 6. So that's total buildable lots. That doesn't include any of the other open space lots. So the total
60
traffic impact fees somewhere in the neighborhood of like,
will be a traffic impact fee for each lot of $1,401.
yeah,
They pay that at the time of building.
Per house.
Per lot.
So you pay it when you get the building permit for that.
yes, correct.
So these 8 or 9 renderings, these are the houses that the developer will build only in that 60-unit development.
Yes.
So maybe about 7 each or something.
Any other comments?
Well,
Manor Way thing now that's been brought up, is there a way to put a condition there that that be approved so that we're
I
not?
recommended condition number 10 that reads, I modified it slightly here, the Manor Way connection details be worked out with the property owners prior to council considering the plan for final approval.
Instead of reporting.
Instead of recording, which I made a mistake there, we need to get that worked out before we go to council with this final plan.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I would encourage that to, construction details not be limited to the nuts and bolts, but also any permitting. I think a few sections perpendicular to the center line would be very helpful to understand.
We have all of that as part of our permit application to DEP. We have cross sections at every crossing, both in line with the stream and perpendicular to the stream.
Specifically, I'm concerned about, we have the stream we're encapsulating with a retaining wall that has a return on it. It's really going to act like a big catchment for any debris. And we know we have difficulty with cleaning out those culverts and so on and so forth. And that could be just an area that we're going to constantly be maintaining. Yes.
So point out where that stream's and being encapsulated on that map again.
Right in this location. I'm sorry.
About how many feet?
This one's, it's between 90 and 100 feet. And the culverts have been designed to convey the 100-year storm without causing any water backing up onto adjacent properties. I mean, that is.
Retaining wall as well.
We've discussed a concrete, cast in place concrete retaining wall and a segmental block retaining wall
So you also have the
with geogrid.
From those catch basins there.
Yeah.
It's extending it.
Yeah.
And that's just about perpendicular to the flow of that stream. So.
Are these homes on pads or they're going to have basements?
They will have, some will have basements. Well, no, they'll all have basements. I apologize. They'll all have basements.
So is this area ever flooded before?
Manor Way area?
Except on that stream, down on the vacant land now, where the wooded area. We know that?
I'm not aware of any major flooding issues on Manor Way.
Never. Never. As long as I've lived in one.
These are all small watersheds as well. They're less than 100-acre watersheds to all of the streams.
It's real tight. It's going to be a maintenance issue. I think that from a traffic standpoint, really necks down. I'm not sure what you have behind the back curb to the face of that retaining wall with the guardrail right on top of that retaining wall.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a segmented unit block wall. You have to push that out, geogrid. Those construction details are very, very tight. And I just see that possibly being a maintenance issue as we move forward with. There's not even an end wall on there, so now you're using that retaining wall as an end wall, obviously.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we
those
are.
details, I'm just really looking out for what we're going to be maintaining here.
And we have, I've taken this cross-section, this design to our geotechnical engineers to, talk about the things like you had mentioned with any geogrid coming through those inlets and the location of the guide rail to determine constructibility and vetted their feedback in the design. So
How high is the wall?
it goes from 2 feet at the highest point, about 13 feet above the culvert. So it's a pretty high wall at the stream elevation or the stream location, and we should consider the fact that the stream's incised almost 7 feet in that location. So the wall itself is, it's only at its highest point right at that stream, and then as you come outside that stream bed, it shortens pretty quickly.
How far from that face of curb to the face of wall would you say that is? my point is that I feel that we have a roadway, we have two-way traffic with 10-foot wide lanes around a curve, no streetlights, and we're going to have a 13-foot wall protected by a guide rail, it's not a guardrail, within how many feet, would you say?
It's 3 to 4 feet.
3 to 4 feet away from the edge of that road. It just feels very narrow. You're going to be going across the top of Hoover Dam. Be dramatic about it. I mean, it's 13 feet.
In one location,
In one
13 feet. For the most part, I'd say it's closer to 5 feet.
So that's just something to consider. I would too. So just a thought, maybe, I know that you're held by the amount of street you can encapsulate a little bit wider, so just to give us some comfort, but that's my opinion, certainly not a requirement.
Yeah, point taken, for sure.
Any other commissioner comments? Any audience comments on the plan? Please come up, introduce yourself.
This one? Sure. I'm Jim Kittleberger. I live on Manor Way, one of the 4 residents that Ed talked about. And if the board here will remember the last time this came up, the concern of the residents was the number of vehicles coming through. If I remember right, it was shot down 3-2 by you guys. And so we understand that this is probably inevitable that we're going to get this right-of-way built in the connection between the Juniper plan and our homes. The concern still is the number of traffic, the amount of cars we're going to get. I think it was 800 vehicles per day when we were at the council meeting as the estimate for the number of vehicles. Right now, we have none. And that has been good about trying to preserve what we have in regards to the environment, not encapsulate the entire stream. Still concerned about the number of vehicles. This was brought up at the council meeting about a right-of-way that was originally there that doesn't exist, but it does. And if you can look at open space, I'll just point to it. When Marble was put in, this right-of-way was left there, but never accepted. Is that correct?
Correct.
So nobody owns this. Now, it's been 35 years. Its intention was to do exactly what we're doing here. Is that right-of-way available? Is it? And why?
Because the township never accepted it.
The township never accepted it, but does that mean it's not available? That's the question. So I did some inquiries and found out that just because it wasn't found doesn't mean it's not lost. Since nobody owns this right away, could it be obtained by the township? And if it was, I asked that question you had, if that township had not had this management mishap 35 years ago, would we be using that right away? Just a what if?
I don't think so because of the topography and the environmental constraints. There's wetlands. I don't know.
There is wetlands there, I grant you, but
I don't know that we would be permitted to make that connection under DEP rules.
so you don't know.
I don't think it would be used, even if it was available.
Okay, well, if you can put up the one graphic, Bill, that shows the wetlands and that spot.
Sure thing.
Nope, back. Okay.
I don't know that this shows the wetlands.
Yeah, it does. Wetlands here. Okay? This is the right-of-way right here. And you're going to plan a culvert of 100 feet, correct?
Yes.
It's going to be like right here to accommodate the road on the map. So if this is available, I'll give you some thoughts on that more. If this right-of-way was available to the township, and it could miss this wetlands because you have 40 feet, and this culvert was shifted down
Now you would have the possibility of coming both ways.
And you're Woody, right?
Yeah.
We talked.
Yes.
I asked that question. If it was available, another what if, what would happen then to the traffic flow through these neighborhoods? And the vast majority of those 800 cars would go Marble. Why? You're 45 seconds to Route 19. Marble to Moccasin to 19. Is that good for location, location, location?
Absolutely.
If it's available, and from the people I've talked to, condemnation, possibly. Nobody owns it. Even if there was equitable rights that needed to be addressed, that's a possibility of resurrecting this right-of-way that was designed 35 years ago to do just what we're trying to do. As Woody said, if 8 out of 10 cars go that way, our concerns are significantly less. Because instead of us getting all that traffic, now it's split between our neighborhood and Marble. And certainly Marble and Moccasin have a much better way to go. If you remember, we talked about this huge hill we have, narrowness of our roads, that side of the neighborhood. That neighborhood there is much better to take this traffic. So the unknowns have to be known, just as Mr. Magan. What's his first name? Magrino, sorry, Mr. Magrino, in regards to the wall that is proposed along this creek. If there's a right-of-way here that could be utilized, and the wetlands can be preserved, because you've seen this one, right? You guys are all looking at that one. The proposed with the wall and stuff. As I see this and read this, the culvert is going to cross over a little bit of these wetlands right here. The culvert is going to be 100 feet by 70 feet or whatever it is. If it's possible to slide this culvert down a smidgen so that the road can bifurcate, the culvert becomes an intersection, and now you access a right-of-way. I'm an attorney, I just fixed them. But I did find this, Sabotis versus Carley from PA 258, 1978. And it's, I'll just get to the conclusion, that mere non-use of a right-of-way by its holder, no matter how long continued, including 21 years, cannot manifest an intention to abandon the right because there's no legal obligation upon the right-of-way owner to use it in order to keep his title to it. We don't own the right-of-way. But there is precedent, and there were several citations here, that even if you didn't use it, just because you didn't and didn't abandon it doesn't mean you can't get it.
I'm going to disagree here, and the only reason I say that is that we have asked our solicitor to look at these questions of these right-of-ways, and there is no question that the township has no ownership interest in it, and that right-of-way that had been not accepted by the township has reverted to the adjacent property owners. What Mr. Kittleberger is correct about is the township could, if it wanted, condemn that property, but I got to tell you, as a matter of public policy in Peters Township, council is loath to use its powers of eminent domain. And so I really do not see that is a viable alternative right now. And I just can't imagine, again, council taking action with residential property using its powers of eminent domain to establish a right-of-way. It just won't happen.
Paul, did it revert to the adjacent?
That's what happens when the township doesn't accept it.
The right does. They haven't gone and taken that property.
They don't have to do anything.
They don't, but because they haven't, they don't own it. Unless they decide that they want to actually own it.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. And
Well,
I don't think that's the position of the solicitor either.
Well, I understand that, but the attorney I talked to said, unless they've taken the opportunity to say 21 years have passed, I want to own that property, then there is potentially an easy way for the township to say, let's go get it.
There is not an easy way. The only way the township could acquire
There's
that property
condemnation.
is condemnation. And condemnation is not an easy process, and it's not one that is used lightly by the Peters Township Council, and I just don't see that happening in this case.
Okay. So I understand the position of the township. I recognize that because it's not owned by anyone, okay, equitable waste may exist, may not. I'll find out from what I can find out and present it to the board again. But if it's available, would the township want to have that to connect? More connections are better, correct?
Typically, yes. We're forgetting about the fact that we have topography here, we have wetlands.
We have wetlands. Now, topography is...
Can I talk?
Sure.
Rules have changed over the years. When this Marble Drive was laid out in Beacon Manor 35 plus years ago, the rules for impacting those areas have changed. I don't even know that we need, if it was available, I don't know that DEP permits could be obtained to do it.
Would you look at it then?
We've looked at it. This is the plan that we're going forward.
And we have looked at the onset of the project, which location could be accessed without, and still receive a permit through DEP. And we will impact those wetlands to make the elevation change from that right-of-way along Marble to connect to Juniper Way. We will impact those.
You'll impact them regardless of how it goes here.
Coming from Marble, we would impact the wetlands that are there to connect to our internal loop road.
Okay. So you're going to impact them to impact them further or additionally to go to Marble if it was possible.
Well, additionally, we haven't impacted any wetlands on the site except for de minimis impact at a stream crossing that is permittable under the general permit guidance through DEP.
Okay. All right. Well, that was my concern, is that if it was available, I got a different opinion. Eminent domain does exist. The fact that they never got the property, because certainly the adjacent homeowners can go and say, it's 21 years, I want to own this property. They've never done that. And so nobody owns it. Could the township get it from eminent domain? And when I say easily, Paul, I don't mean easily in the sense that, it's not an easy process. I mean that if they decided just as if it was 20 years and the township said, let's go get it, then you could have gotten it. Maybe, when it was not accepted. I don't know the particulars of that, but easily in the sense that you may not have to pay very much for it.
One of the reasons why this property is in the conservation residential overlay is that there are environmental sensitive areas that exist on this property that with this development we're trying to preserve.
Right.
We don't want to wipe out the entire wetland, but make a connection, just to make the connection. So,
well, it's a balancing act, Ed, between the concerns we have, safety of our neighborhoods and all neighborhoods, because if it can be done, everyone's a winner with this. Because instead of 2 connections, there's 3 connections. And the realtor will be happy to save 45 seconds to Route 19. Am I right?
All right,
That's it.
thank you, sir.
Okay.
Please come up.
My name's Joe Delisio. I live at 3110 Manor Way. I'm one of the 2 property owners that if the road is put in not in the existing right-of-way, if we agree on giving up some of our property for the right-of-way with the wall plan you looked at, it would affect us the most because we're the 2 property owners going to give up our property. First thing I got to say, I certainly wouldn't encourage the Peters Township to eminent domain anybody's property. I don't want anybody to lose any property, whether they know it's their property or don't or whatever. I wouldn't want that to happen to my property, and I'm sure they wouldn't want it to happen to their property. I understand your concern. You were talking about the wall, the height of the wall and everything like that. You probably haven't looked at that situation down there now. Where that stream runs down in there, that's already a 12-foot drop-off right there. You talked about the width of the road. I'm assuming the width of the road there was still going to be like an 18-foot wide road
Yeah, it's 20.
through there? Okay. And you talked about lighting. Would there be a problem putting a light right there then, where that wall would be?
No,
So that area would be lit?
I was just concerned about the dimension from the curb line to the top of the wall, just to give some, lack of a better, horizontal buffer.
Oh, I understand, yeah. And I was thinking of lighting in there or some type of reflective material or something like that, so headlights would easily be able to see what was going through there. But, you know, and if you looked at the situation, right now where the road is, the existing road, it's partially on our property and it's completely on our neighbor's property. So it's not in the initial right-of-way. And the right-of-way, the 40-foot right-of-way takes in just about the entire stream. So we understand that would be probably very difficult to get that permitted to cover that entire stream up there. So we're willing, we've talked with the township, and we're willing to still meet with them to try to work out some, hopefully some agreement where we can put the road through by utilizing part of our property. But that's what Ed suggested, you know, if you approve this plan tonight, that put on hold until we work out some type of an agreement.
We've been having discussions. Those discussions have been very positive. I think we have a common understanding about what it is we'd like to see. It's just being able to work out the details to make the facilitate that, making that happen. Everybody's been very reasonable with regard to these discussions, and I think the fact of the matter is, and this is one of the things we discussed with the property owners, when you look at where the cartway is, the existing roadway and the existing right-of-way and people's properties, one of the things that's going to have to happen is that we're going to re-record a new plan so that right-of-ways line up with cartways, property that the township has no need or interest in retaining can get back to adjacent property owners. And I think when we're all done, I think everybody's going to be pleased with where we end up. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other audience comments? Can you get a motion, please?
I have a question before motion. The other departments are really on board with this, aren't they, to be able to access the township? So, you know, as a planning commission, I think we need to incorporate not only the public, but also the departments of the township and how easily they can access different roads. And
you know, all you have
and
to
I haven't
do
heard any safety issues tonight. I mean, there isn't any red flags. Am I missing something?
No, I don't believe so. You know, the perfect example of what you're referring to is just think about what it takes for snow removal when you have to leave the community and pass through Upper St. Clair to be able to plow streets. It not only impacts our ability to deliver service to that neighborhood, it impacts our ability to timely provide service elsewhere. So you have received in the past letters from the police department, from the fire department, and from the public works department, all believing that making this interconnection will enhance their ability to deliver service.
Okay, thank you.
So this is a recommendation, Council.
Hey, Ed,
Yes.
just one quick question.
A quick question.
Please come up and introduce yourself.
Yes. My name's Deborah Bosker. I live at 2921 Beacon Way with Jim. My question is, will there be specifics in the final planning as far as the green space, what the developer is maintaining as far as preservation of the land? Are they leaving the current trees, or are they leveling all of the property?
The open space areas will be left in their natural state.
Okay. All right, because that...
And that open space will be turned over to the homeowners association to Juniper Woods homeowners.
But they won't be, there'll be no cutting down of the trees that are currently there.
The only trees that will be cut down is where they're putting in the roads and the
Okay.
home sites.
That was a concern.
The open space will be preserved.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
I'll make a motion that the planning commission recommend approval of the Juniper Woods final plan as detailed in the May 3rd, 2018 planning staff memo, subject to the 10 conditions detailed therein, including the revision of the 10th condition to read, the Manor-Way construction details be worked out prior to council considering the plan for final approval.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is the planning commission recommendation, the water and feeder project final land development plan and site plan.
I'll be recusing myself from this discussion.
We'll let the audience clear out for a second.
Bill, could you close that door on your way out?
Yes. Okay. Again, this is a recommendation to council. There's two.
What's it?
We'll set up first here.
510 problem.
Okay, so the waters of feeders, they have the property of Carter Lane, Valley Brook Road, under the green, it's currently owned by the Iolis. The requested action for you tonight is a recommendation to council on their land development plan, and I'll explain what that is, and their site plan. This is a conditional use, therefore the site plan and land development plan have to go on to council for approval. Council did grant the conditional use approval back in December of 2017, subject to those 14 conditions that are in the conditional use decision. I want to say at this point they are complying with all 14 of those conditions. Properties at the corner of Valley Brook and Friar, 3.7 acres, zone town center. Grant Shires here representing the waters. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I want to explain that there's a land development plan which simply carves off 0.0 acres from this 3.7 acres and set to the sides and dedicates that 0.0 acres to the township for future right-of-way needs for the widening and the turn lanes on Valley Brook Road. So our first recommendation is that we approve that subject to the 5 conditions I have in my report. The second thing is the site plan approval, and last month, Planning Commission saw this. We'll let Grant go through and show you the design again, and staff's recommending approval of the site plan subject to 14 conditions that I have in my memo to you, and I also have a 15th condition to add that I forgot to approve. And we can go over that at the end.
Good? Grant Shiring with PV, representing the Water Senior Living. The image that you see on the screen right now is what Ed was referring to as the 0.08 acres. That's for future roadway expansion if it does occur. When we were here a month ago, we went through, I think, some pretty thorough detail in the site plan. Amongst multiple questions from the Planning Commission, we heard one clear item that needed to be addressed, and that was pedestrian connectivity. Ed has really been helpful in leading negotiations and discussions with St. Benedict's to try and make a connection to their property. And Where that connection is proposed to occur is right here where we had discussed along Friar Lane. The reason we had not shown that on the previous plan, if you could recall, is that we were going to need to grade onto St. Benedict's property in order to make this a walkable option. It was going to be too steep if we could not grade onto their property. So as we understand, St. Benedict's is willing to work with us to permit that grading to occur so that we can have a relatively flat sidewalk that can be walked over. So. We have received the comments from both Gateway and the Township. There is nothing in there that's a red flag to us. We believe those are technical comments that we can address, resubmit plans back to the Township. Other than the 15th condition that we'll probably hear in a moment here, we have nothing else to add to that, and we'll just answer any questions that you have.
The 15th condition is, in our zoning ordinance under site plans, we require developers to provide the township with documentation that they have the financial capability to do what it is that we're approving. So the 15th condition would read, the owners provide the township with evidence of their financial capability to carry out the improvements related to the approved development prior to the issuance of a building permit or site work commencing. That would be the 15th condition in the site plan recommendation.
And that's acceptable to us as well.
I know we've been through this plan a lot last month, so I don't know if there's any other commissioner comments on it.
I don't have any.
I just want to say thanks for addressing that connectivity issue before this one.
Ed helped us out with that.
You got to thank Father Bob, St. Ben's.
Good.
I will be.
Any audience comments on this plan? If not, can we get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend approval for the Waters of Peters project, land development plan according to the memo dated May 4th, 2018, along with the 15 conditions.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, everybody.
So you want me to...
Good luck.
Meeting adjourned?